Next on the news, students in the Diocese of Brooklyn are back in class and they're under the leadership of a new superintendent. We'll hear his plans for the new year. Also, as the United Kingdom and the world mourn Queen Elizabeth II, we'll look at her role in Christianity.
I've been blessed with something that I've never experienced in my life. There's a fire inside me that I've never had before.
He's on a mission to honor the flight crews lost on 9/11. Paulie Benito tells us how this year's walking tribute will be different. Plus, he served his country. Now a 94-year-old World War II veteran is serving his community by making people smile. I'm Christine Persichetti. This special edition of Currents News starts right now. It's new beginnings for the kids and for a new superintendent in the Diocese of Brooklyn. Students across the diocese have headed back to school, and their new leader is behind them all the way, saying the sky's the limit for Catholic schools. Currents News' Jessica Easthope spoke with the new superintendent, Deacon Kevin McCormick, about his plans for the new year.
We had to get on.
The buzz of a classroom on the first day of school. The excitement and anticipation of what lies ahead is second to none, and not just for the students in the Diocese of Brooklyn.
Good to see you guys. So my name is Deacon Mac.
It's his first day of school too. Deacon Kevin McCormick, or as he wants to be called, Deacon Mac, the new superintendent of Catholic schools.
Your ears, Zach, has got his big plans for you.
Deacon Mac is starting his journey at a time when schools in the diocese are boasting big numbers. There are 3,000 new students, and more than a third of diocese schools have enrolled more kids than in 2019, before the pandemic.
Oh my goodness, they're thriving. Our schools are doing tremendous work. We're just beginning.
And Deacon Mac has big plans to match. He's putting kids and a Catholic education first, emphasizing support and respect for teachers and focusing on education as an essential part of diocesan growth. His first stop was the oldest school in the Diocese of Brooklyn, St. Michael's Catholic Academy, a place that's taken cultural immersion to a new level. Every student speaks and takes classes in Mandarin.
Everybody is represented here.
Everyone gets treated the same, even when it's their birthday.
He also toured St. Andrew Avellino Catholic Academy, where his welcome took away those first day jitters.
I was also a little nervous, but now I'm not nervous at all.
As the oldest new kid in the Diocese of Brooklyn, Deacon Mac's hoping to accomplish one thing: further the mission of Catholic education.
They need to give the schools that they went to support so that the next generation can be there.
It's a home away from home.
We have new students, and I hope to make friends with them.
Deacon Mac will be getting to know the Diocese of Brooklyn well. He'll visit schools every day for the next 2 weeks. In Flushing, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
The tablet newspaper has a must-see pullout for parents throughout the diocese. The special supplement features a message from Deacon McCormick, plus more than 50 pages detailing the benefits and values each Catholic academy in Brooklyn and Queens has to offer. For those looking to visit a Catholic school in person, the paper has also included information on their open houses. You can find all that and more online at thetablet.org. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe so you can get the paper delivered directly to your mailbox. And if you want a Catholic education from the Diocese of Brooklyn for your child, there's still time to enroll. Just visit CatholicSchoolsBQ.org or call 718-965-7380 for more information. Also tonight, tributes for a monarch. Queen Elizabeth honored for her dedication.
We remember the pledge she made on her 21st birthday to dedicate her life to service.
Now on Currents News, the Queen, who was also defender of the faith. She was the supreme governor of the Church of England. Queen Elizabeth II also met with 5 popes over her reign of more than 70 years, and her faith in God and Christ could be seen at many points in her life.
Happy Christmas.
She held the title Defender of the Faith, and every Christmas, Queen Elizabeth II shared her faith with the nation. This was her first televised Christmas message in 1957.
I hope that 1958 may bring you God's blessing and all the things you long for.
But over the years, Her Majesty's Christmas messages became more religious. As she got older, the Queen would use this speech to explain her own personal faith, as she did in the year 2000.
For me, the teachings of Christ and my own personal accountability before God provide a framework in which I try to lead my life.
Her life changed dramatically when her father, King George, passed away, and at the age of 25, she became queen.
The hopes and hearts of England and the Commonwealth went out to a young queen.
In 1953, Queen Elizabeth II was crowned during a coronation ceremony. It's an occasion for celebration, but also a solemn religious ceremony where Elizabeth was anointed and blessed by the Archbishop of the Church of England.
A storybook queen who wrote bright pages in the story of the year.
And while her faith was always on display in different ways, like attending church every week, it was these Christmas messages where she spoke directly to the people about it.
For me, the life of Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, whose birth we celebrate today, is an inspiration and an anchor in my life.
And when the love of her life, Prince Philip, passed away last year after more than 70 years of marriage, she mentioned him during her annual speech in a message that will resonate for her family this year, too.
For me and my family, even with one familiar laugh missing this year, there will be joy in Christmas.
She talked about seeing the festive season through the eyes of her young great-grandchildren.
They teach us all a lesson, just as the Christmas story does, that in the birth of a child, there is a new dawn with endless potential.
Let's dive a little deeper into the Queen's faith and her role when it came to religion. To help us do that, let's bring in John Allen, editor of Crux. Hey, John.
Hey, Christine, how are you?
Good, good. So as we just mentioned, Queen Elizabeth was the supreme governor of the Church of England, and she held the title of Defender of the Faith. Now, Westminster does have an archbishop, and people often think of royalty as figureheads, really. So what exactly was her Christian role as queen? You know, what do those titles actually mean?
Well, I think by all accounts, Queen Elizabeth took that role as defender of the faith quite seriously. She did attend church services every Sunday, and it seemed fairly palpable and fairly credible. I mean, she often talked, for instance, about the parable of the Good Samaritan as a kind of parable of selfless service to others, and something that meant a great deal to her. We also know that she was great friends with many Christian leaders. She was, I think, especially struck by and interested in the figure of Pope John Paul II. So, you know, by all accounts, I think there is a strong sense that Queen Elizabeth was a very sincere, a very committed Christian believer. And I think that's part of her legacy, Christine.
And, you know, she did share her faith through her Christmas messages. We just showed a few of those. Did those messages have any impact on an increasingly secular Great Britain then?
I do think the impact they did have is that it meant that despite it all, that somehow holding on to the Christian faith and to the symbols of the Christian faith remained part of what it meant to be British. You know, it is hard to know, isn't it, like in the long run, you know, how much impact that had on the day-to-day quality of lives in the United Kingdom. But it does mean that somehow this idea that British identity and that the institutions of British life are somehow tied up with Christianity. That survived, and I think to some great extent, because of the personal witness and in the personal testimony of Queen Elizabeth. And in one of the world's most runaway secular societies, I think that's no small thing.
You mentioned the popes before, and Pope John Paul II was the first pope to step foot in Britain. What significance did her relationships with the popes have on not only the monarchy, but the entire Catholic Church? You know, she met 5 of them.
The United Kingdom, let's remember, like its foundational act almost was an act of defiance to a pope, King Henry VIII, you know, severing Great Britain's deference to the Pope in creating the Church of England as a kind of separate entity. And in some ways, Great Britain has always seen itself as a kind of alternative, is a place where the Pope, where his authority does not run. And so the idea that the sovereign of Great Britain, and arguably the most beloved sovereign, would have been so respectful and so interested in cultivating good relations with popes, I think that's enormously important. And it coincided with a period of time where, in many ways, Catholics were rehabilitated in Great Britain. They became productive, accepted, respected members of British society. And I think Queen Elizabeth did a great deal to facilitate that.
I read that a Vatican official called her the last Christian monarch. Now her son Charles takes over. So what does the future of the monarchy look like in terms of religion?
The monarchy in England, for all of its trials and travails, nevertheless represents the institutional heart and soul of the United Kingdom and of the British nation. And the fact that both Queen Elizabeth and now King Charles III both see faithful Christianity as part of that identity, as part of that profile, if you will, of what it means to be institutionally British. I think that augurs well, and both of them, the great respect they show for the Catholic portion of their population, also augurs very well for the place of the Catholic Church in British society going forward.
All right, John Allen, editor of Crux, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Christine.
Now that Her Majesty has passed, a series of carefully choreographed security plans have already taken effect. The 10-day protocol, known as Operation London Bridge, details the moments between the Queen's passing and her state funeral. During this time, King Charles III will make a grand tour of the United Kingdom as preparations for the Queen's funeral take place. The funeral will be at Westminster Abbey. It will be the first funeral of a British monarch since 1760 there. The 10-day period also marks a time of mourning for the British monarch, and condolences are pouring in from around the globe. The Archbishop of Westminster, Cardinal Vincent Nichols, said he was heartbroken by the news and went on to say, "At this time, we pray for the repose of the soul of Her Majesty. We do so with confidence because the Christian faith marked every day of her life and activity." Pope Francis also offered his condolences, saying this: "I willingly join all who mourn her loss in praying for the late Queen's eternal rest and in paying tribute to her life of unstinting service to the good of the nation and the Commonwealth, her example of devotion to duty, her steadfast witness of faith in Jesus Christ, and her firm hope in his promises." There's a lot more news headed your way. Sunday will mark 21 years. The faithful in the Diocese of Brooklyn ready to remember 9/11 with a special mass. Plus, we'll speak with the retired flight attendant who walks and pushes his cart to remember the flight crews lost on that tragic day. And the busloads of migrants have been rolling in, why the mayor of D.C. is now declaring a public emergency.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
This Sunday marks 21 years since the day that changed our lives forever, the 9/11 terror attacks. New York will again pay tribute to the nearly 3,000 people who died on that tragic day with a special ceremony at Ground Zero. As always, it will begin with the tolling of bells at 8:46 a.m., marking the time that the hijacked American Airlines plane crashed into the World Trade Center's North Tower. Houses of worship across the 5 boroughs are also asked to toll their bells at this time. As the nation mourns, one man is leading a big effort to make sure we never forget. Former flight attendant Paulie Venito is pushing a beverage cart 35 miles from Dulles International Airport to the Pentagon for Sunday's somber anniversary. He's specifically honoring the flight crew working aboard American Airlines Flight 77, which was hijacked after takeoff from Dulles and crashed into the Pentagon. We spoke to Paulie just moments before he embarked on his push, and he says the whole experience has been an emotional one.
It absolutely is. I've experienced something that I can't even put the words that I'm so grateful for. First of all, that I have the opportunity to do this. If I can inspire anybody, well, there's no better feeling. And I just didn't plan it to be this way, and I'm okay with it. But it's really something special. It hasn't stopped since I started doing this. It hasn't stopped. People are coming into my life. A gentleman donated his RV to me, and you know, I don't know how to explain it, but it's almost like I'm not making these decisions. It's just happening. These decisions are being made for me by people coming into my life, and I'm okay with it. I'm meant to do this. I know that. If I can bring any type of relief or comfort to anybody, because everybody has a story about 9/11.
Right.
There wasn't one person that didn't tell me a story.
Now, you've said that you were given a second chance in life. Has your faith strengthened in the past 21 years?
I know that I've been blessed with something that I've never experienced in my life. There's a fire inside me that I've never had before. I'm on a mission that there is no doubt in my mind that I could not accomplish.
This isn't the first time Paulie paid tribute to the victims of 9/11. He also pushed a cart from Boston all the way to Ground Zero last year. Bishop Brennan will also be marking the somber anniversary this Sunday with a special memorial mass. Ahead of the liturgy, the bishop will process with firefighters across the Brooklyn Bridge to the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph. Then first responders will gather for mass with Bishop Brennan, who will be the main celebrant and homilist. Be sure to follow Currents News and the Tablet for coverage of the Mass and the 21st anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks. The mayor of Washington, D.C. has declared a public emergency as more busloads of migrants arrive in the nation's capital. The move will allow Muriel Bowser to free up $10 million in city funds to help the migrants once they arrive. A total of 9,400 migrants have been bused to D.C. from Arizona and Texas. The buses have also been arriving in New York City and Chicago. Those long bus rides are just the last leg of the trip for the migrants as they risk everything in their quest to reach America. But it all starts with a journey that can be incredibly dangerous and even deadly, all just to make it to the Mexican border.
It's a brief moment of joy. These migrants are finally atop the beast. It's one of the last steps in the dangerous long journey to reach the Mexican border. Some call it the train of death. They walked for 2 months, went days without food, slept on sidewalks as they made their way north from Venezuela. They say they're escaping government turmoil and poverty in search of a better future. After reaching the U.S. border, they were put on a bus to New York. It's all part of that program by Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who says the thousands of migrants are too much of a burden on state resources and wants them to go elsewhere. So for several weeks, thousands have been arriving at the Port Authority bus terminal, dropped in the heart of Manhattan, knowing little about the city or where to get help. That's where volunteers like Ilza Thelman come in.
People are showing up dehydrated, no food. Everyone is famished when they arrive.
She's also housing this family after learning they would be sent to separate shelters because they couldn't provide documentation showing family ties. The shelter system is already struggling to keep up with a recent increase in the homeless population in New York. Abbott's office said the busing mission is providing much-needed relief to overwhelmed border communities in his state. But advocates say that relief comes at the expense of the migrants' health and safety.
To just send people blindly without any screening or consideration of what their actual needs are is just cruel.
Like Ilza, hundreds of volunteers have mobilized trying to help.
This is a loving city. So I'm very proud. I'm really proud to be part of this city.
Reports say Texas has spent more than $12 million so far busing migrants to Washington, D.C. and New York. Catholic Charities of New York has been right there for the bused migrants, but now they're seeking help. The organization has set up an Amazon wish list of essential items such as shoes, socks, baby items, and clothing for children. To donate, just go to their Twitter page @CathCharitiesNY. A link to the wish list will be available there. In hopes of finding a long-term solution, a group of bishops from both Mexico and the U.S. met earlier this month. This is the first time since the pandemic started that the bishops were able to hold their annual conference in person. The three-day meeting in Nuevo Laredo was mainly spent talking about how each diocese is handling the migrant crisis. But they did more than just discuss migrants. The bishops also visited a nearby refugee facility to get a better understanding of their situation. And for many, that situation means they will be waiting in limbo. The Biden administration has admitted 1 million migrants to await hearings on whether they can stay temporarily in the U.S. But because of the immigration backlog, many of them will have to wait 7 years on average before a decision on their case is reached. The U.S. has allowed some migrants to stay temporarily for a number of reasons, including their native countries not taking them back. Still to come on Currents News, you have to pull out all the stops for your 91st birthday. Next, the thrill one woman can now check off her bucket list. And a World War II veteran served his nation, but now he's serving in a different way by making people smile. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. One woman from Minnesota is proving that age is just a number as she celebrated her 91st birthday by going skydiving. Wow, meet Ida Shannon. She says when she told her church that she wanted to jump out of a plane for her birthday, they didn't hesitate to make it a reality. But the high-flying gift was more than just another check mark on the thrill seekers list. Ida said she was also excited to experience God's creation from a new perspective.
The first minute or two, it's going to be kind of scary because you have to wait for the chute to open. But after that, I expect to be able to look down on God's earth and enjoy what God has created. We're made to be together. We're made to need each other.
Ida has always been a big fan of going on adventures. She even surprised her church by going zip-lining for her 80th birthday. You gotta love it. And finally tonight, he's a World War II veteran who's still serving his community, but in a different way.
That's good. You can have that. There you go.
At 94 years old, Carl Hall is a hero to the kids at the Shriners Children's Hospital in St. Louis. For the past 32 years, he's been handing out toys and smiles to everyone who walks through their doors. But that's not all. Carl has also been working with various church groups and community organizations to raise money for the facility, and already he has collected more than $270,000.
Carl treats us all like we're a part of his family.
Thank you. It's real helpful to your physical, mental, because you're helping kids get better. I've seen kids come in here that couldn't even walk or do anything. And when they leave, they're like a regular kid anymore. It's just amazing.
He's amazing. Carl doesn't plan on leaving his post at the hospital anytime soon. He says he'll continue to hand out toys to children for as long as God helps him. And that does it for this special edition of Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.